I got the mute button up. Mute button.
We're going to start in 1 minute. The October 27th, 2020 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll? Mr. Allkofer. Mr. Allkofer. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroff.
Here.
Mr. Baroff is present. Mr. Baynes.
Here.
Mr. Baynes is present. Ms. Boyce.
Here.
Ms. Boyce is present. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone. Here. President Carbone is present. Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty is present. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mrs. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofet-Lassie.
Here.
Mr. Keofet-Lassie is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is excused. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marianetti.
Here.
Mr. Marianetti is present. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Morelli is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Taylor is present. Mr. Terp.
Here.
Mr. Terp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present. Mr. Allkofer.
Here.
Mr. Allkofer is present. We'll need to suspend the rules of the legislature for the purpose of prohibiting public in-person attendance in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, which was extended through November 3rd by Executive Order 202.67. You have a motion before you, which is moved by Legislator Brew and seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. This is a non-debatable motion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Please stand as Legislator Justin Wilcox will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Wilcox.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty
with liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
I call this special meeting of the legislature pursuant to the authority vested in me as president of the Monroe County Legislature by Section C2-9C1 of the County Charter and Section 545-5 of the Rules of the Legislature of the County of Monroe. This meeting has been closed to the public, and all legislators are participating via teleconference in accordance with Executive Order 202.1 and 202.67. In keeping with the legislature's tradition of openness, the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube through the legislature's official channel. Everyone participating via video or teleconference will please mute their devices except to obtain the floor or cast a vote. If seeking to obtain the floor, please simply state your name and wait for me to call on you before proceeding with your questions or statements. The clerk will read the full title of each resolution and referral to avoid any confusion as to which item is before the legislature. All votes will be held via voice vote unless a roll call is requested. Tonight we will a motion to convene the committee of the whole. In convening the committee of the whole, we will also discharge those items currently referred to committee and commit them to the committee of the whole. All legislators will be members of the committee of the whole and able to participate in debate and vote on items regardless of their respective committee assignments or which committees the referral was initially assigned. The committee of the whole will be governed by the same rules of the legislature that govern committee meetings, and the votes taken are equivalent to those taken in committee. Meeting item passed by the committee of the whole will be considered for final approval or appropriate action in the next regularly scheduled meeting of the legislature. We will now hold the public forum. Mr. Clerk. No one is registered to address the legislature, nor were any written comments submitted. We will now proceed with consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda? Item number 1, providing that files number 20-0311 through 20-0330 be discharged from the Agenda Charter, Public Safety, Recreation, Education, Human Services, Intergovernmental Relations, Environment and Public Works, and Ways and Means Committees, providing that the legislature convene a committee of the whole, and providing that files numbers 20-0311 through 20-0330 be committed to the committee of the whole. Moved by Legislator Brew. Seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. At this time, we'll now recess the October 27, 2020 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature, and we will convene the Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Allkofer.
Here.
Mr. Allkofer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Broth.
Here.
Mr. Broth is present. Mr. Baynes.
Here.
Mr. Baynes is present. Ms. Boyce.
Here.
Ms. Boyce is present. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delhaney.
Here.
Mr. Delhaney is present. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mrs. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofet-Lassie.
Here.
Mr. Keofet-Lassie is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is excused. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marianetti.
Here.
Mr. Marianetti is present. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Morelli is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Smith is present. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Taylor is present. Mr. Turp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. You have the minutes from the September 22nd, 2020 meeting of the Committee of the Whole before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes at the end of the day. We will now hold a public forum. Mr. Clerk.
No one is registered to address the Committee of the Whole, nor were any written comments submitted.
We'll now proceed with new business. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda, please?
Referral 20-0311, an act of local law authorizing lease by negotiation with Federal Express Corporation for real property at the Greater Rochester International Airport.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Taylor, seconded by Legislators Dondorfer and Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Legislator Colby.
through you to the administration, I see the cost figure for 1 year, for the first year. Is there any accelerating costs as we go ahead with inflation figured into this contract?
Yes, there is. Through the chair, yes, there is. There's acceleration during the 10-year term.
And through you, Mr. President, the 2 5-year on the other end that are they at their choice or a community or both of our choice to extend the contract?
It's mutual consent through the chair.
And the third question through you, Mr. Chair, would be, is this contract a net figure? Then I'm assuming all heating and repairs and general maintenance and lighting is covered by the leaser?
Through the chair, this is a land lease, so everything is covered by the tenant to do with the building.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Legislator Boyce.
Go ahead, Legislator Boyce, you have the floor.
Yes, a follow-up question to Mr. Colby through the president. To Mr. Crum, so if it is accelerated year to year or whatever, how it's written, I do not see that in the referral. Is that something that should be amended?
Through the chair, it's every 3 years it goes up, and that's not necessarily required to be in the referral. But if you give me half a second, I'll double check.
Goes up by what percentage also? Could you check that too?
Yes, I can. There. Every 3 years, but through 3% to the chair, but I will confirm that in writing to the chairman. And I will supply you through the chair, I'll supply you with the rent payment schedule. So you can see what it does through the term and the extensions.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just a follow-up through the president then. So if it's not, you're saying it's not necessarily needed in the referral, but it just seems to me, you know, in layman's terms, I mean, it's not saying it, and if somebody were to just look at it, you would say, oh, they're gonna just pay that amount for that period of 10 years.
Through the chair, that's not something we customarily do. If you'd like us to do it with future resos, we can look at that. But what we've done traditionally is we've supplied whoever asks and wants to know what the lease is going to be. We will supply the information to the legislature, if that's
Okay.
acceptable.
No, if that's something that you haven't done in the past, it's just, okay, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Through the chair, you're welcome.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0312, adopt retention and disposition schedule for New York local government records, LGS-1.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Taylor, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this referral?
Mr. President, Legislator Barroth.
Go ahead, Legislator Barrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, have there been any changes from past disposition schedules?
Through the chair, yes, there has been multiple changes. It's a 380-page document. All the changes are documented with a diamond next to it. So there has been changes that the state has made.
Could you please identify yourself because you don't come up on this?
Oh, I apologize. This is Colleen Anderson, purchasing manager.
Thank you. So the schedule from the New York State has changed, and I know that we must change in response to that. Are there any additional changes made by Monroe County is what I'm asking, through the president?
Through the president, no.
Okay. Then through the president to the administration, am I correct to assume that over the past several administrations, that this has been the practice, that whatever the only changes made were changes instigated by the New York State through the president?
Through the president, I am not aware of what previous administrations have done.
Thank you. Would anyone else on the administration side know of what has been previously done in terms of responses to changes in the New York State schedule for keeping records?
Mr. President, this is Jeff McCann through you. No, we're not familiar with any changes.
Okay. Well, then I'll have a conversation about this offline. I understand what you're saying. Thank you very much.
Legislator Hebert.
Go ahead, Legislator Hebert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, does the county have a procedure, policy, whatever, on how to handle these documents once they've met the state criteria for disposal?
Through the president, yes, we do. there's a form that needs to be filled out by each department and sent to myself to be signed off on before they can be disposed of.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, does that document, once they receive your approval to dispose, is there a standard way they dispose of them? Is there, are they shredded? Are they tossed in a dumpster? How are they handled?
Through the president, it depends where they exist. If they exist in our storage facility, which is Iron Mountain, then they take care of disposing of them. If they exist here at one of our county facilities, we have classified shredding, which is a vendor through NICID, which they shred the documents.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. So just to be clear, all documents are shredded then?
Correct. Through the president, correct.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. President.
Any further discussion?
All three of them.
Pardon? Who was it? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0313, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for the Child Passenger Safety Program, Department of Public Safety.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this referral?
Mr. President, Legislator Barworth again.
Go ahead, Legislator.
Thank you. Can you, through you to the administration, who is eligible to receive a child safety seat?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe we have Jenny Verhagen available to answer that.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm here. Our traffic safety specialist must get a referral from a social service provider, whether it's WIC, public assistance, or something along that, to verify their income.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Through the president, can I have one question to Ms. Verhagen? Carla Boyce, is it true that the Department of Social Services does not give child safety seats to newborn children when they leave the hospital if they're on temporary assistance? Is that still the case?
I can't answer for through the chair. I can't answer for social services. Sorry.
Okay. If there's anybody that might be able to answer that, that would be great. If not, maybe we can take notation and maybe get for that.
Mr. President, we can look into that and we can respond back for legislature.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0314, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the 2020-2021 Aid to Crime Laboratories Program, Monroe County Crime Laboratory.
Move it.
Moved by Legislator Bush, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0315, authorized contracts with Board of Regents of the University of Oklahoma Health Science Center and Coordinated Care Services, Inc. for the services related to the Finger Lakes Regional Youth Justice Team Grant Program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, Legislator Boyce.
Okay, Legislator Boyce, go ahead. You have the floor.
I'd like to declare my interest as I am employed by Coordinated Care Service of Rochester.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0316, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester to allow Rochester Police Department evidence technicians to enter ballistic imagery into the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network located at the Monroe County Crime Laboratory.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Legislator Barth, you have the floor.
thank you. Through you to the administration, is this move as being a temporary adjustment or something that's going to be done permanently in the years to come?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe we have John Clark available to answer that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McCann. Through the president, this is obviously a new agreement with the City of Rochester, so we don't know if it will continue. We'll see how it works. Hopefully, it will expedite the entry of ballistic images into the system, thereby expediting information that comes from connections to various shootings.
Thank you. But assuming all goes well, then we would anticipate doing this in future years, correct? Through the president?
Through the president, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Legislator Hebert.
Go ahead, Legislator Hebert, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration, does the county bear any monetary or other risk if the approved RPD technicians don't follow proper procedures?
Through the president, your audio is a little low. I could barely hear you, but I think you asked if there was a cost to the county of Monroe, and the answer to that would be no.
Thank you. I'll try to speak up a little bit. Is this better?
Through the president, yes.
Okay. Through you, Mr. President, the question was, does the county bear any liability of any nature should the RPD technicians, not follow proper procedure, do something wrong?
Through the president, no. The images they're entering will not be submitted to the crime laboratory, so a crime laboratory case won't be created. So the evidence technician will remain in retain custody of that item, enter the image, and take the item with them when they depart after it's entered into the NIBIN database.
Through you, Mr. President, so no one outside of the county would come back at us because the RPD technicians, the approved ones, made an error?
Through the president, no. They are trained and certified by the ATF to enter those images, and they're responsible for them.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0317, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester for reimbursement for the fiscal year 2016 Complex Coordinated Terrorist Attack Grant.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Ansello and Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Legislator Colby.
through you, this grant was from 2016 with the City of Rochester participating. Did any other local police or fire companies participate in this exercise at the time?
Mr. President, I believe we have Director Tantello available to answer that.
Through you, Mr. President, that with this particular grant, there are a number of first responder emergency services that were partnered with, including the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Monroe County Fire Bureau, the Rochester Police Department, the Rochester Fire Department, and local EMS agencies, as well as our 911 center.
Through you, Mr. President, has any of those other agencies been reimbursed for similar to this reimbursement that we're asked to authorize today?
Through you, Mr. President, it's my understanding that they have been reimbursed. The initial IMA focused on the Rochester Police Department because there was an agreement for a $20,000 allocation from the grant. Due to the fact that they were not able to successfully complete the training by July of 2020 due to COVID, the state granted an extension and will have the ability to recover the remaining amount of that $20,000, which would be $8,250.
So through you, Mr. President, the other agencies have already been reimbursed? That's the way I'm understanding this?
I don't know what the exact dollar amounts were associated with that, but there should have been a reimbursement component for any of the overtime that they would have expended. I'd have to do research in regards to that to give you an exact dollar amount.
So this is, through you, Mr. President, for me to understand, the Rochester Police Department hasn't been reimbursed yet, but the other ones have. Can you answer along that lines? Not so much a dollar, but that they have been reimbursed?
Through you, Mr. President, that's my understanding. Referencing the IMA associated with the city and the Rochester Police Department, it's my understanding when this was done in 2016 that all parties involved mutually agreed upon the disbursement. The only disbursement I have before me tonight would be associated with the RPD, and I would have to get back to you in regards to additional funding amounts or allocations for the agencies.
And through you, Mr. President, is there any other money left in this account after this reimbursement?
At this particular point, I don't believe so. I'd have to research what the 2016 grant allocation was. I apologize for not having those specifics, but certainly I can work through the Office of Emergency Management and drill down the specifics associated with the funding.
Through you, Mr. President, if you give us a copy of the original grant or the original referral that was passed that shows the allocation of the grant money to different agencies, I would appreciate it.
Through you, Mr. President, we certainly will work on the original grant allocations and the data associated with that for your review.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0318, classification of action, designation of lead agency, and determination of significance pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act for jail mainframe reconstruction project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second?
By Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Turp. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, Legislator Barra.
Thank you. Through you to the administration, when do we expect the sheriff's plan to be complete?
Mr. President, we have several people on the call who can address that. I will leave that to one of them to respond.
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. The master plan is scheduled to be commenced in January 21, be complete at the end of 21.
Thank you. And so am I correct to assume then that that's part of the process that Lobella Associates and the next referral is going to be involved in through the President?
Through the President, that is correct.
Thank you. And then finally, through the President to administration, we do not anticipate this project being boots in the, shovel in the ground, all that good stuff until 2025, correct?
Through the President, at this juncture, the construction schedule is unknown. It'll be developed through the master plan process once the project scope is identified.
Okay, so through the president, the day of the year of 2025 is like a holding date then, is that correct through the president?
Through the president, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Legislator Hebert.
Go ahead, Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration, the fourth specific legislative action required. I don't think that's coming from me. The fourth specific legislative action required gives the county executive fairly broad authorization to do a number of things. My question is, do any of the potential actions include awarding of any contracts or any other payment related items?
Through you, Mr. President, this is Laura Smith, Chief Deputy County Attorney. In this particular resolution, the fourth legislative action is limited to taking actions pursuant to seeker, which includes signing and filing Part 3 of the environmental assessment form, as well as noticing all other involved agencies and putting a notice in the environmental notice bulletin.
Through you, Mr. President. So the answer to my question is no, they do not include anything fiscally oriented.
Correct. This is limited to actions just under seeker.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0319, authorize a contract with LaBelle Associates DPC for professional design services for the jail mainframe reconstruction project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barnhart.
Legislator Barnhart? Okay, you've got the floor.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration. Well, first, let me just say thank you for answering a lot of my questions in advance. I do have a few more. So through the president to the administration, first, what has been the average daily inmate population at the jail in recent weeks?
This is Captain Kennedy from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. The average daily population has been about 670 inmates with a peak of about 711 yesterday.
And through the president to the administration, how does this compare to about a year ago? It's a pretty big drop, isn't it?
I don't have those figures directly in front of me, but I would estimate it's down about 300 to 350 inmates from a year ago.
Okay. Through the president to the administration, so we're using the mainframe now, even though, your numbers indicated that you have enough cells without the mainframe, but I know you're using it now, and in your answer you said you won't be able to use it for much longer because it's not in great shape. And so what will happen to incarcerated individuals when we can't use it anymore?
Through the president, so the numbers are deceiving when you look at our ability to hold individuals. We have cells, we have bunk areas, and then we have special housing areas in which we use for classification and for incoming individuals, for mentally ill individuals that we have to house separate from the general population. So it's very hard to explain how it looks like, you can't just take the final number and say, all right, well, your population's at 670 on average and you've got, this many cells and this many bunks. The best way for me to explain it is if you took a cell block and let's just for argument's sake today, say it's 100 cells in that area, and that's assigned to the female population. This morning we had 51 females in custody. That means the other 49 cells are no longer available to be used. So they become defunct, really. We can't use those cells. We'll use them, obviously, if more females come in, but we can't put another population in that area. So it gets a little deceiving when we talk about how many cells are available and where people can be housed. The state mandates that we can't keep minimum, medium, and maximum security inmates housed together. So they have to be separate. So it becomes quite the puzzle, I guess would be the best way for me to say, when you look at the population and where you can put people, where you can house people. And at times, like with the female example, there may be a number of cells that just aren't available to us, but they still show up on that count. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, you did a good job explaining that. Thank you. Through the president to the administration, this pre-planning phase requires a needs assessment. So who performs that needs assessment for the jail?
Through the president, Labella will be the prime for the project, but justice planners is the subcontractors that will be looking at the population and our needs. You know, when you look at the population right now, obviously it's gone down a lot in recent years with the justice reforms that we've seen, and now with COVID coming in, we need somebody to come in and really look to see, you know, what is our population going to average out at? What is it going to be when all of these factors are played in?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking at the Justice Planners website. It says that they consult on jail services and criminal justice assessments. Okay, thank you. Through the president to the administration, will there be options presented to the public, to this body, for what to do with the mainframe, if anything, or do you anticipate there will be just one final recommendation?
I missed part of your question, but the first part of your question I can answer is that there is going to be stakeholder participation, you know, with community involvement, legislator involvement, in all stakeholders that use the jail and come in and out.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration, one of the answers provided in advance said that not rebuilding the mainframe could be an option based on the needs. And who ultimately makes the recommendation? Okay, here's what we're going to move forward with, that we're going to ask for approval on. Does Labella do that? Does the sheriff do that? Who makes the call?
Through the president, the decision would ultimately be made by the sheriff with consultation with the New York State Commission of Corrections.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. President. Mr. President. Yes, thank you.
Legislator Mitchell, go ahead. You have the floor.
Yes, to you, to the administration. In the last paragraph, it says that Labella is not a MWBE, but they will be partnering with 4 MWBEs. Can you explain to me what those MWBEs will be doing in this project right here?
Through the president, this is Bill Daly with DES. The MBE and WBE subconsultants are Popley and EDR. And Popley will be furnishing energy and fire protection design for the project. And EDR will be providing landscape design for the project.
Okay, thank you. Through you to the administration, I thought it was 4 of them.
Through the president, Ravi will be providing surveying and geotechnical and environmental consulting. And D2D, Green Design, will be providing sustainable energy design.
Okay, thank you. And through you to the administration, are these business located here in Monroe County? Is they based here? So you to the administration?
Ravi, Popley, and EDR are located in the community. D2D is located in the southern tier.
Okay. And through you to the administration, can you give me what the breakdown of the MWBE is? Is there woman owned? Is there minority owned? Black owned? Can you just give me a breakdown real quick?
Get the percentage of the counties.
Through the president, Ravi is an MBE. Popley is a MBE. EDR is a WBE. And D2D is a WBE.
Thank you. And through you to the administration, is there any reason why we are going with Bella and we have some of these MWBEs that is local? What the use of going through Bella and we have MWBEs who could have bidded for this project?
Through the president, we followed a RFP process. We had 4 respondents: Labella, SWBR, SMRT, and Savin. And only 3 consultants submitted an RFP, a proposal, responded to the RFP. That was Labella, SMRT, who combined with SWBR, and Savin.
Thank you. And so just to you through the administration, it's correct that all 4 of these MWBEs will be working on this actual project, correct?
Through the president, that is correct.
Thank you. And one more question. And how long before this project gets started through you to the administration?
Through the president, the master plan will commence upon award, anticipated to start in January of 2021 and be complete at the end of 2021. We do not have a schedule for the actual construction project yet, as that'll be vetted out during the master plan design and recommendations.
Thank you, thank you. And just through you to the administration, can you give me the breakdown of how much each MWBE and Labella will be getting out for this project? This $217,795.
Through the president, through the master plan phase of the project, Labella portion of the contract of the $217,000 will be $48,980. Justice Planners portion will be $112,000. Trophy Point, their portion will be $23,780. Popley, the MBE will be $26,425, and EDR, the WBE, will be $6,595.
Can you tell me what the third one was again? Through you to the administration?
To the president, the third one was Trophy Point, and they provide cost estimating.
And how much would they be getting out of this?
To the president, $23,780.
$23,780. Just through you to the administration. That second one you said, what do they actually do? What are they actually doing?
Justice, to the president, Justice Planners.
Mm-hmm.
They specialize in actual jail design, so they'd be doing all the bulk of the work for the planning and meeting with the sheriffs and the stakeholders to develop a plan, a master plan, and a best foot forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 20-0320, amend the 2020-2025 capital improvement program and the 2020 capital budget to add a project entitled Monroe Community College Combined Heat and Power Plant Improvements and authorize financing for the project.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Allkofer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, Legislator Barra.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, what is the anticipated timeline of this project?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe we have Alyssa Tallow on the call to answer that. Oh, I'm sorry, or Mr. Daly might be more appropriate to answer that as well.
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. The anticipated timeline for the project is to create the capital fund in January of 2021 and commence the project in the second quarter of 2021 and be complete by the fall semester of 2021.
Okay, sorry. I pushed the wrong button. So if I can understand correctly, then this is all going to be done in a very relatively in less than a year, correct? Mr. President?
Through the President, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. And finally, my last question is, how much of any funds might we get reimbursed from the SUNY system?
Mr. Chairman, Robert Franklin, Monroe County Finance. The SUNY system will reimburse Monroe County 50% of the actual project costs.
Thank you. And so I'm clear, then essentially at some point in time, we'll get about $650,000 from them. Is that correct, the President?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Legislator Brew.
Go ahead, Legislator Brew, you have the floor.
Yes, to the President, to the administration. Does the county, are they aware of the energy savings dollars that may be achieved through utilizing the cogen plant versus not having the cogen plant online?
Through the President, this is Bill Daly with DES. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, to the President, to the administration. The cogen plants are widely assumed to be a power saving entity, and they are installed on these energy projects as such. Does the county run numbers annually not projecting, but actually annualizing the savings that are realized through the utilization of the cogen plants versus not having the cogen plant at all and buying those utility services outright? I'm just asking for if the county has any information regarding the energy savings that it should be realizing through the use of the cogen plant.
Through the President, thank you for repeating the question. And there's an approximate annual savings of $190,000.
And to the President, to the administration, is that savings number compiled by the contractor or by the county engineering department?
Through the President, those numbers are compiled through the energy consultant for MCC.
Okay, and through the President, the administration. So my assumption is that the county does concur with those figures that have been provided.
Through the president, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Legislator Colby.
two questions through you, Mr. President. Just approximately, whereabouts is the plant located on campus? I'm trying to visualize it. To administration.
Through the president, this is Bill Daly with DES. From the main entrance on East Henrietta Road, as you're looking at the building, it would be to the right-hand side in the basement.
Through you, Mr. President, to administration, this is a natural gas fired facility, I assume?
Through the president, that is correct.
And through you, Mr. President, what percentage of the electric that the campus uses is generated 100%, more than 100%, or something less?
Through the president, there are 4 generators that are capable of supplying all power to the campus, excluding the ice skating rink.
Through you, Mr. President, when you say all campus, are you including the dorms facilities that are located to the north?
Through the president, that is correct.
And through you, Mr. President, that also includes all the heat requirements through a steam type or a hot water system that I assume is part of the cogeneration?
Through the president, that is correct.
And I assume that you probably don't run all the generators during the summer or other months when you don't need all the electric or the steam?
Through the president, that is correct. There's 4 generators and they run via demand.
Through you, is there any generation that is generated and put back into the grid, or do we always take a little power out of the grid?
Through the president, we don't put any power back into the grid, and the only time we would take power out of the grid if the generators are down or they cannot meet the demand.
Mr. President, thanks for my indulgence on finding out how the system works. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0321, acceptance of a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for the CARES Act Provider Relief Fund HHS Stimulus August distribution at Monroe Community Hospital.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0322, amend Resolution 107 of 2018 to accept additional funding from the New York State Department of Health, amend Resolution 128 of 2019 to increase the contract with Reliant Staffing Systems, Inc., DBA Career Start, to provide nursing and health care provider services for the Monroe County Department of Public Health for the Immunization Action Plan program to include the IAP flu funding grant.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0323, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Department of Health for the Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs Program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Next.
Referral 20-0324, acceptance of a grant from Health Research, Inc. for the Overdose Data to Action Program, Office of the Medical Examiner's Forensic Toxicology Laboratory.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say Oh, Legislator Roman, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. President, just wondering why there's a decrease in funding. There appears to be.
Mr. President, we have Rebecca Hartman available to answer that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. This is a federal program, I believe, that originates in the CDC, and they distribute money to the states, and the states divide it among eligible laboratories. It depends on how much money is available federally in any given year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
This is Legislator Hasman.
Go ahead, Legislator Hasman.
Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, to prepare for this meeting, I read up a little bit on the Overdose Data to Action program, and just for the benefit of everyone else, because I think it's a really interesting program. I was wondering if the administration could provide a little description of it. It is a CDC program.
Through you, Mr. President. It's a program that was established to help prevent future overdoses by gathering data on, in our case, post-mortem overdoses, in order to sort of figure out where gaps might be able to be filled. So basically, the way it works is they provide money to help fund that process, and we provide them with data relating to, in our case, it's post-mortem testing in toxicology, but it's things like what sorts of drugs are out there and what we're testing for, but it's a very broad scope of a program, and we're just one little piece of it, so I'm not really qualified to speak on the broader program.
I think that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0325, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the 2020 to 2021 Aid to Crime Laboratories Grant Program, Office of the Medical Examiner.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0326, authorized contract for the provision of forensic pathology services to the Monroe County Office of the Medical Examiner.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator.
Yes, Mr. President.
I think Legislator Hebert was first. Go ahead, Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, could the administration please describe what drives situations where the medical examiner decides these services are needed?
Mr. President, we have Bob Zerbe available to answer that.
Through the president, yeah, Bob Zerbe, Medical Examiner's Office. So currently, our caseload here in Monroe County generates approximately 1,000 postmortem examinations per year. While we have 4 authorized positions, only 2 of them are currently funded. This contract allows us to bring in locus tecum pathologists who can help provide service to make sure that the cases are done in a timely manner.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, you indicated only 2 positions are funded. Could you tell me what that, describe that a little more thoroughly? If we have this backlog of cases, I'm wondering why that is the situation.
Through the president, no, it's actually, we have 4 positions authorized, they're funded, we only have 2 of them that are filled.
Okay, I received an org chart in response to a question that was answered that lists the organization, the medical examiner's office under Frank Golisano, and it shows all 4 medical examiner positions fulfilled. However, there are 2 associate medical examiners that are showed on the org chart that I believe are radically different positions. Am I correct on that?
Okay, yeah, so on the organizational chart, there's actually a single medical examiner for the county. And then there's 3 additional forensic pathologists that are titled associate medical examiners. Currently filled, we have 1 medical examiner and 1 associate, leaving 2 associate positions vacant at this point.
But there are, through you, Mr. President, there are 2 names on the org chart showing them filled by someone that I believe to be filling a position in the communications department and someone that's filling a senior position in administration. Are those?
To the president, I can't answer that question.
Is there anyone else in the administration can answer that question?
Through you, Mr. President, those positions have been vacant long-standing, and there are individuals who are filling titles, and those are being used in lieu of to fund those positions you referenced.
Through you, Mr. President. So the positions that the 2 individuals I'm referring to, and I'm trying not to use names, aren't real positions that exist in the administration. They are taking up slots in the medical examiner's office.
Through you, Mr. President, there has been a long-standing practice in the county to fill titles that were not planned as part of the budget, and in order to fund those positions are used in lieu of to fund them, and those positions will be addressed as part of our 2021 budget. And as I said, this has been a long-standing practice in county government.
Is the administration actively seeking, through you, Mr. President, is the administration actively seeking to fill the 2 open associate medical examiner positions? And
through you, Mr. President, I think there have been long-standing efforts to fund those positions, and I think this is something we've talked about many times here across the board. Our pay scales in many cases are so bad that we're in an uncompetitive position to hire people, particularly for spots like this where across the state and across the nation, these people are in very high demand. And again, our salary schedule makes us very uncompetitive in terms of attracting candidates.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration. I'm a bit surprised that the answer included it's a long-standing practice, because I thought that you were trying to clean that kind of stuff up, and I'm surprised to hear that it's continued.
Through you, Mr. President, we have, as you're aware, we inherited a budget that we were not part of. We have realigned some of the county executives' priorities. And again, both of the individuals that you're referring to will be straightened out and addressed as part of our budget that will be unveiled very shortly. So given the options of the budget that we were given, this was, in our opinion, a totally appropriate way to staff the administration as the county executive saw fit.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I think Legislator Colby was next, correct, Legislator?
Legislator Flagler Mitchell was next.
Okay, I'm sorry, Legislator Flagler Mitchell, you're next. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just through you to the administration. It irks me to hear long-standing practices. And for any of us in the legislature, we should not be talking about long-standing practices. We hear that almost every meeting. And since I've been on the legislature, the previous group of Democrats always talked about how long-standing practices has been a problem. And now that we have the county executive, it seems like it comes up all the time. We got to stop being hypocritical when it comes to what we're looking at to do. We're in this for change. We don't want to see the stuff that's the way it was going before, and that's it at the end of the day. But my question is, why is this contract only done for 1 year versus to do a 2 year, 3 year? Is this because, and through you to the administration, is this because you're still searching for people or what?
Through you, Mr. President, and not to confound what you just said, but generally it's a 1 year agreement with a clause to allow for 2 additional extensions. Again, the county practice has generally been to avoid the longer term contracts, since you can't logically predict so far into the future, is to make just short annual contracts.
Okay, thank you. This and through you to the administration. So are you saying the past practice of just doing 1 year contracts is okay, or would you like to see longer contracts? Just through you to the administration.
Through the administration, it really has no bearing on how we look at it. Longer term is longer term. I think it's nice to have the variability in a shorter term agreement though, but again, that's my personal opinion, and I would defer to the county law department for any legalities in long versus short term agreements.
Yes, county law, to you to the administration. County law, is there legal reasons why we are doing 1 year contracts?
Through you, Mr. President, this is John Bringwell, County Attorney. There is a good legal reason in certain circumstances why you would do shorter term contracts, so that the legislature doesn't authorize a contract beyond the terms of the legislators. So that would often provide the justification for the shorter contract.
Law department again. What does the pathology, forensic pathology, got to do with our terms?
Through you, Mr. President, the question as it relates to the terms of contracts and the length of the contract, the legislature, under certain circumstances, or actually generally, cannot authorize contracts that exceed the term of the majority of the body.
And just to you, to the administration, do we have a backlog? We're backed up when we're talking about the forensic pathology services. I mean, if we're backed up, are we on point? Did they say something?
Through the president, are you asking, where are we at case wise? Are we caught up, or do we have backlog?
Yes, through you, Mr. President, yes.
Okay. Through the president, yes, we are in fact experiencing a backlog. There is a time delay in our case completion as a result of our caseload and our current, pathology situation. Even with this agreement, and this is an agreement that is currently in place now, like everything else this year, COVID has really put a kibosh on a lot of the pathologists who are contracted visiting, because their own offices don't allow for the visitations. Generally, the pathologists we're having have full-time jobs in other areas, and they more or less come here on their vacation time. And a lot of places vacation has been stopped because of the variability of not letting people go places where they might get sick.
Thank you. Just to you, to the administration, that was going to be my next question, because I'm looking on the back of this sheet and I see that everybody who's on here lives somewhere totally different than here in Rochester. And is that we don't have talent here in Rochester, or why is it that we see them live so far away? Through you to the administration.
And through the administration, so forensic pathology is a subspecialty of pathology, and they're a rare breed in the United States as a whole. Just a few weekends ago was the National Association of Medical Examiner meeting, and one of the sessions pointed this out clearly, that there's something like 1,200 positions, maybe 1,500 positions for forensic pathologists in the United States, with roughly 500 to 800 people to fill them. And it's not a place where people they just don't go into that level of medicine. The general amount of pay, the compensation is less than other medical practices. It's government work. And again, people prefer private work. There's more money to be made essentially. And it's really a labor of love. No one kind of becomes a forensic pathologist unless they really want to become a forensic pathologist. It's dirty, nasty work. And these are people who really want to, do the right thing for the people who are our clients essentially. And they're few and far between. And if you come out of school as a fellow in a forensic pathology area, and you have a choice of going to South Florida where it's always sunny or coming to upstate New York, it's kind of an easy decision. So it's kind of difficult to, recruit people and get them to come to our area, again, through the administration.
Thank you. I really appreciate you explaining that. To give me a better understanding on why we're doing this. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. President.
Yes, Legislator Colby, you have the floor.
I'd like to go back to this job filling issue a little bit. Through you, Mr. President, can anybody tell me if there's a definite job description for the positions that the 4 positions we're talking about and the 2 there, and what requirements do those job descriptions require?
Through you, Mr. President, I'm positive there are job descriptions. We do not have those now. That's something we could get to the legislator.
Through you, Mr. President, I'm making the assumption that when you hire somebody in a position, they have to have the basic requirements to take that position and use those dollars to pay somebody for that, and which, through you, Mr. President, so what I'm assuming is you're just taking the dollars out of one department, moving it into another department, and you did not get an authorization from the ledge, and I would thought that would have been appropriate to do.
Point of order, Mr. President. What does this have to do with the legislation that we're looking at right now?
Well, Mr. President, I could answer that. We're talking about funding of positions that are not being filled because maybe they're being used other places.
All due respect, Mr. Colby, it is a practice that was instituted by the previous administration, one that you were supportive of, and therefore the current administration has been stuck with a budget that they were forced to use. So I think your question, while relevant, has nothing to do with the issue, and the administration has already indicated that there will be a change when they have the ability to write the new budget.
But if these positions were filled, we wouldn't have needed these contract negotiations. So I'm going to allow Legislator Colby's question.
Again, Mr. President, I don't understand what that has to do. We've heard from the medical examiner that these are one-year contracts. That's what we're discussing here. It seems like other issues are being brought up, which totally understandable. These issues can be discussed, but it has nothing to do with the matter at hand.
Through you, Mr. President, they do have something to do with it because if the funds were available, maybe those positions would have been filled. So I'm trying to bore into that.
All due respect, Mr. Colby, we've already heard from the medical examiner as well as the administration that the reason that these issues weren't, or that these positions haven't been filled, is because Monroe County has traditionally not done a good job with raising the wages for these positions. So when we don't have people interested, it is simply because there's not enough money to offer them. So perhaps that's something that be looked at in the future.
Legislator Morelli, good points, but I'm going to deny your point of order, and I'm going to allow Legislator Colby to continue with his questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only final question I have is wouldn't it have been a simple requirement if they're trying to clean up a mess that they perceived was there before, through you, Mr. President? Couldn't they just come to the ledge and say, we can't fill these positions, but we have these dollars and we like to move them over to this department until the following year. Wouldn't that have been a more appropriate way to handle the situation?
Through you, Mr. President, there was a lot said there, so let me try to answer it this way. If we were able to find people for these positions, we could start the process of filling those positions tomorrow. We are an organization that has, I don't know the exact number, over 4,000 employees. There are a number of vacancies that we're carrying. It is routine for us to make adjustments in staffing from the authorized budget. And again, that's something we've done with these two positions here that are at hand. These are two positions that will be corrected, as I said earlier, as part of our budget that we'll be unveiling very soon. So I guess I would take exception with a couple of things. To somehow say that we are doing business as usual, nothing could be further from the truth. These positions, there has been a longstanding history of people serving in lieu of positions in county government for years. That's not something we've done. That's not something we're going to do. And that's something that we are addressing through this budget. So no, this is a significant change in terms of how the county operates. And again, to somehow suggest that we're using this money and it's preventing us from hiring people in these positions is categorically false, through you, Mr. President.
I guess that's all I have to comment at this time, Mr. President. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0327, amend Resolution 48 of 2018 to extend the time period for the contract with Phoenix Business Inc., DBA Phoenix Business Consulting for the SAP S4 HANA upgrade.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President?
Is that Legislator Flagler Mitchell?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Why are we extending the time? To the administration?
Through you, Mr. President, we have Jennifer Cusey available to answer that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, this is Jennifer Cusey. I'm the CIO and Director of Information Services. The project is being extended for a year because we had to move our go-live date from September of 2020 to basically October of 2021, primarily because a lot of the work that we needed to do was supposed to be done this spring and summer, and we were not able to do that due to resources being needed to be redirected to support the COVID effort. And because of year end and various other county activities, we had to wait until the time frame when it was most appropriate and the least impactful in a negative way to county business, which is why it's going all the way to October of next year, thus the extension of 1 year.
Thank you. To the administration. You said that y'all moved money from one place due to COVID. Just to the administration.
If I may, it has nothing to do with money. It's resources, as in personnel. We needed to be available to deal with everything that the county as a whole was doing to support the COVID work. So this was something that would have impaired our ability to successfully, to properly, I guess, complete the project and try to implement it this fall. Therefore, we made a decision to move it. There was not really any reason not to move it other than it just extended it a year. So we thought that was prudent to do for the county overall and the success of the project.
Thank you. And just to the administration, when did y'all decide that was good to do? To move it?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe it was June, July timeframe when we had the discussion, and we had the discussion with the executive steering committee for SAP, and that's when we made the, somewhere around there is when we made the decision.
Thank you. And just to you, to the administration, where did you move these resources to? I thought that this was a vital part of the county and its operations. Why would you move resources from something so vital to put somewhere else?
Sure. Through you, Mr. President, the resources were not moved from anywhere. IT resources, for example, support projects across all the departments in the county. And again, as an example, if we're trying to put servers up or something of that nature, and we need to instead focus on, having support for, say, a lot of remote workers, et cetera, then the resources would just be doing different activities. It's not that the resources were moved from a department perspective. It's their focus of work, and the priority of work has to be evaluated and modified in order to take care of the circumstances at hand. In this case, none of us could have predicted the pandemic, and obviously our resources needed to be reprioritized.
Right. No one could have predicted that COVID would have came, and I appreciate you giving me an explanation why we have to extend this. I think it's valid that we do what needs to be done to make sure that the county continue to move forward, even though there was press release went out that claimed that we did not want to do something otherwise, when all the Democrats except one, and then that's Morelli Jr., voted to table it last time. However, sometimes press release can be lies, and that's understandable. And just at the end of the day, I support this, and thank you for explaining that to me, that these services had to be moved to other places due to COVID.
Mr. President, this is Jeff McCann. I believe Legislator Flagler Mitchell is getting two separate referrals confused. This is separate from the item that we had to have the special meeting for to approve.
Legislator Flagler Mitchell, same company, different issue.
How many, just to you, to the administration, how many projects does this company have in the county?
It's my understanding it's the two.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0328, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation for the Snowmobile Trail Development and Maintenance Program, and authorized contracts with the Hilton Snow Flyers, Inc., Webster Ridge Runner Snowmobile Company, Inc., Salmon Creek Snowmobile, Inc., and Hill and Gully Riders, Inc. for the repair and maintenance of trails.
Move it, Mr. President. By
Second.
Legislator Allkofer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0329, confirmation of the appointment of the Executive Health Director of Monroe Community Hospital.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 20-0330, authorize a contract with Goodwill of the Finger Lakes, Inc. for COVID-19 call center and phone triage database support services for the Monroe County Department of Public Health.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
I don't know who went first.
Smith moved it.
Okay, Legislator Smith.
Okay. Through the president, how many calls are being received daily?
Mr. President, I believe we have Mike Sayers on the line to answer that.
Yes, this is Mike Sayers from the Department of Public Health. Through the president, we're receiving about 2,400 calls a month, so approximately 80 to 100 a day, depending on the day flow.
Thank you.
Legislator Hebert?
Anything else, Legislator Smith?
No.
Okay, Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration, this is essentially a call center service, correct?
Through the president, yes, it is. It's related to the COVID-19 response. If anybody has a questions concerning their isolation and quarantine orders or any COVID-19 question, they will call the county number 753-5555, and it will be pushed over to 211. 211 will do their best to answer the general questions, but the difference between just a pure call center is whatever they cannot answer will be put into our phone triage database that will be answered by our phone triage unit the next day, or if it's an urgent clinical question, it will be referred to our on-call clinician that night for answering.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to the administration. So are you providing scripts to these people to answer the basic questions or access to a database that they query or something of that nature?
Yes, through the president, yes, we have provided them the information for their ability to answer at their level, at the 211 level. And things that become too clinical, or if they feel they can't answer it based on the script, they'll refer it back to us and we will answer it during the workday.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, the administration, there are many, many call center service providers in the IT environment, at least were when I worked in it for the nearly 30 decades I did. Does it concern anyone that only one party responded?
Through the president, I will say that we were working with this respondent for the 3 prior months, and they did an excellent job. We laid out the requirements we felt was needed for the continued effort, and this was the only respondent that met those requirements. So I can't really discuss why others weren't able to meet the requirements, but we've been very happy with the service that had been provided.
Pardon me, but that sounds like, through Mr. President, the administration, like this was set up for a company to win, and they did. Amazing.
Through the president, no, we were setting our objectives based on our COVID-19 needs, and we put that out there for all call centers to apply for, so we don't go that way.
Through you, Mr. President, the administration, when was the RFP released and when was it due back into the administration?
Through the president, the RFP was released within the first 2 weeks of September, and it was following the Monroe County procurement regulations, and I think it was given 2 weeks for respondents to respond and to have questions answered.
Through you, Mr. President, so it's normal for us to put out an RFP with a 2-week response date? I'm hearing.
Through you, Mr. President, for the RFP that I myself have been involved with, that seems to be the normal process, yes.
Mr. President, this is Jeff McCann. I would just like to stress to the legislator that there are different timelines for different types of RFPs. So the 2 weeks that Mr. Sayer referenced is not a standard across the board time frame for all RFPs. They vary depending on the nature of the service.
Mr. President, the administration, Mr. McCann specifically, I fully understood that and assumed that was the case. However, 2 weeks is an extremely short time, and I would expect that when you put that out, you don't get very many respondents, which means you don't have much competition. Again, this sounds to me like a contract that was set up for somebody to win, and they amazingly enough did. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Legislator Baynes.
Thank you, Mr. I was next.
Legislator Baynes.
I was next.
Yeah, Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few quick questions. Is this money come from the CARES Act for this RFP, or is this county dollars through you to the administration?
Through the president, this is Mike Sayers. It's my understanding that is being funded through CARES Act money. And when the CARES Act money ends on December 31st, unless it's renewed or extended, we will use our COVID grant funding and another grant called an epidemiological and lab capacity grant to fund the contract. There will not be any county dollars used.
Thank you, thank you. And just to you to the administration, is Goodwill a county? Is they based in Monroe County?
The Goodwill, the Finger Lakes call center is based on South Clinton Avenue. So yes, they are in Monroe County.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And you just already, you answered one of the questions for me already. So thank you.
Okay, that's it, Legislator Flagler Mitchell? Okay, Legislator Baynes. Thank you. Legislator Baynes?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to just make the comment that our partners in the not-for-profit community who work with us are really valuable, and I want to commend Goodwill Finger Lakes stepping forward. This is an organization that has a history of high-quality performance, and we're very proud to have it part of our community. So I just want to commend them and let them know that we really appreciate what they do.
Thank you, Legislator Baynes.
Through the president, this is Mike Sayers. I just would like to add one correction to the release date and the response deadline for this RFP, since I managed to find the information correctly. It was released on August 18th, and the response deadline was September 18th. So it was a 3-week, not a 2-week timeline involved.
Mr. President, Legislator Boyce.
Go ahead, Legislator Boyce, you have the floor.
Since it was CARES Act funding, is there any federal guidelines that would have to be followed with regards to those RFPs? Is that something that is different or the same?
Through the president, this is Mike Sayers. I am not aware of any difference in the RFP process concerning using CARES Act funding.
Mr. President, Robert Franklin, Monroe County Finance. I can confirm for Mr. Sayers the federal guidance issued to the counties and states who receive CARES Act funding were given free rein to execute emergency orders under the grant requirements, and there were no specific RFP guidelines.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Just one follow-up question from Legislator Smith's. You stated there was an average number of calls coming in. Can you give us how many that have been, say, in the month of October, as opposed to an average?
Through you, Mr. President, I do not have that exact information on me right now, but we will work and get that tomorrow and provide that information to you.
Thank you.
Legislator Barnhart.
Go ahead, Legislator Barnhart.
I went to the Goodwill website for the Goodwill of the Finger Lakes website, and they have a contact center for social enterprises. Through the president to the administration, this is the call center we'll be using, correct?
Through the president, wasn't, this is Mike Sayers again. I wasn't fully able to hear that question. Could you please repeat the question again?
Sure. I'm on the Goodwill of the Finger Lakes website, goodwillfingerlakes.org, and they have a section called Social Enterprises. And under Social Enterprises, there's a contact center where they've said they've answered 1 million calls since 2009. They've handled contracts for the EPA in their toxic substance line and New York's Growing Up Healthy hotline. Is this the same call center that we will be voting on contracting with?
Well, I'm not on, through the president, I'm not on the website. I do know that I'm not aware of any other Goodwill of the Finger Lakes that exist in our area, so I would assume yes, but I'm not able to confirm that based on what you're telling me right now.
Sure. Through the president to the administration, I've toured this facility before, and it's a really wonderful thing that they're doing for our community. And it says here on the website that it has been honored as a National Industries for the Blind Center of Excellence. And it's been honored for demonstrating excellence in their operations, technology, training, contract procurement, corporate and community partnerships. And most importantly, the website says the contact center offers challenging and rewarding career opportunities for people who are blind or visually impaired. So I'm excited to vote for this contract. I think this is a good thing that we're doing, and it sounds like they've done a wonderful job answering calls in our community during this pandemic.
Thank you. Any other further discussion?
Legislator Udelson.
Oh, go ahead, Legislator Udelson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, specifically to Mr. Franklin, if I could, concern was expressed before about the turnaround time on these RFPs. My question is, under the new administration this year, has there been any change that shortened the time for the response to RFPs as compared to the previous administration?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I will comment that there are no etched in stone guidelines for a turnaround in RFP actual responses, but our purchasing office generally encourages a 1-month time for proposals. There are extenuating circumstances that may drive a department to specifically request shorter turnaround times, and we have seen that in the past. I can also think of extenuating circumstances where we have given proposers longer than 1 month to respond. And I know that has happened in the past around county IS projects.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before the Committee of the Whole? None, the Committee of the Whole stands adjourned and shall rise and report in the same matter as the Legislative Standing Committees. The October 27, 2020 special meeting of the Legislature is reconvened. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Brew.
The next meeting of the Monroe County Legislature is scheduled for Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m.